Hello and welcome, I am SimUK and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the recently released Mordhau title, which I bought directly from Steam on release day. Mordhau, in German swordsmanship terms, is a method of holding the sword inverted. So with both hands gripping the blade, you would then hit your opponent with the handle or the crossguard of your sword. Personally, I am completely ignorant of the benefits of such a technique. Alas, knowing this does imply an intrinsic and deep understanding of swordsmanship. Mordhau, the game, very certainly gives the impression that the developers not only understand, but also care very deeply about producing a realistic, skill-based combat system, and it really does show. Mordhau could easily be described as the spiritual successor to Chivalry, a medieval hack-and-slash game from way back in 2012. It's still available today, and it's still very playable today. It's a great game which I have enjoyed playing for many years now. So Mordhau is the newer, bigger and bolder equivalent of that game. But is it any good? In this review, I will highlight both good and bad points of the game as I see them. I will also discuss where I think it excels and where I think things could be improved. Finally, I will give you my overall thoughts on the game after some 10+ hours of solid, uninterrupted gameplay. As always, I shall start with a quick review, and for those looking for a more in-depth analysis, you can continue watching as I continue to highlight and discuss key features in more detail. So Mordhau is a multiplayer medieval slasher which allows you to create your own mercenary and then fight in brutal, fast-paced battles, including castle sieges, cavalry charges, and much more. Tritonian, if that's the correct way of pronouncing it, released this game on the 29th of April 2019, and it will set you back £23.79 as we speak. This is Tritonian's first release, and but for some launch day issues, I must commend them for it. The key features of this game are massive 64-player all-out war in modes such as Frontline and Battle Royale, which I will discuss a bit later. There's co-op and offline play, where you fight waves of enemy in co-op Horde mode, or practice offline against the AI. There's a free-form melee and ranged combat system which allows you to have complete control over your attacks, allowing you to employ your own unique style. And there's some in-depth character customization. There's also a huge arsenal of weapons and equipment to choose from, and you can fight anywhere. Cavalry charges, fight on ladders, and there are also siege engines. The game includes visceral and gory combat, and the blood and gore is an optional feature, but it does look pretty darn good with it turned on. And this is a game where fights really do look believable. Mordhau strikes a balance between gameplay and realism, and I think they've done a good job of that. If you are a fan of Chivalry, then this is going to be the quickest and easiest review ever. Mordhau has quite literally improved and enhanced upon every single aspect that was Chivalry. It truly is the modern day equivalent. It feels so unbelievably familiar, yet totally different, all at the same time. To better explain this rather contradictory expression, I need to discuss briefly the combat system in Mordhau. It has been developed to be a real-time, free-form attack system, eliminating the hacks and special cheats previously seen in Chivalry. What this basically means is that you are completely free to move about and direct each blow as you see fit. Make it high, make it low, make it short, and even feint. Your footwork and the psychology behind your attack is all important here. This combat system allows you to quickly, seamlessly and effortlessly switch between targets, engage, block and evade, all in a single motion if necessary. It sounds incredible, doesn't it? Well, it actually is pretty incredible, and it makes for some potentially epic moments. There are 3 game modes included in Mordhau, which can be fought over 5 maps. Now that doesn't sound too impressive on paper, but each map and mode does offer a very different experience. It's clear to me that much time and attention has been placed on these game critical components, although more would be appreciated in the future. The character creation is in-depth and fully customizable and allows you to really put your own stamp on the game, which is an excellent touch. The impressive number of weaponry and armor items is certainly not exhaustive, but they have been well modelled and seemingly balanced to further enhance that level playing field approach that Mordhau and fans of this genre really appreciate and desire so much. There are 1 or 2 slightly negative aspects worth mentioning though, nothing that can't be fixed, improved or changed over time, and hopefully they all will. The initial tutorial is great and it gets you up to speed almost instantly, but what isn't quite as well explained are the actual game modes and the in-game game systems, if that makes sense. It isn't immediately clear, at least it wasn't to me, how or where to heal, replenish your arrows, or even which objective it was that your team were currently focused on. The UI overall is okay on the most part, but some issues do exist, and some alterations would further benefit the overall feel, in my humble opinion. The one area where the game has glaring issues at present is still with online connections. They can take a very, very long time, and I often found that player numbers were somewhat lacking. I chose to expand my online search to include worldwide instead of just Europe, and this helped quite a bit, but the Mordhau experience was still plagued with very long waiting times, and I had frequent disconnects after each round. The more I played, the less this seemed to happen, suggesting to me that the player numbers do vary quite a lot throughout the day. Overall, this game has exactly the same addictive qualities that I found with Chivalry, and I laughed so hard and I enjoyed the experience so much that I heartily recommend Mordhau to anyone interested in this era, or even to those looking for a realistic yet easy to learn and play hack and slash title. If you would like to see a more in-depth review than this, then keep watching. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe and share. Let's begin, as we always do, with the UI. It's okay. I would have to say it's very basic and the number of options are limited, but it's relatively intuitive and all of the key features do appear to exist. They're not hidden away in any complicated key combo or anything like that. If I were to request some changes to the UI, it would be mostly around the gameplay itself. Health, ammo and objectives for me were difficult to identify and often difficult to find. That being said, the more that you play, the easier that becomes. But for beginners, and especially those who are new to the genre, I do feel that this is going to be a hurdle which some might not manage to overcome. One of the most annoying things for me about the UI was at the end of a round, the score sheet just disappeared way too quickly. I like to look at the stats and see when I'm playing well and when I'm not playing well, and then compare my scores to those at the top. There is nowhere near enough time to do this at the moment, and I simply couldn't figure out how to bring that screen back up either. Graphically, the game looks pretty good. There is nothing specifically outstanding to mention, but when you get involved in the game, it looks good and most importantly, it feels right. The maps are well designed on the most part, and with different biomes displayed, the game has done a great job of encapsulating the right look and feel with each one. The character models and equipment are of a decent standard. Some of the character faces are less than impressive, and the AI mouth movement is questionable within cutscenes. There is also some clipping that I noticed with clothing, but Overall, and to be totally honest with you, the game is very pleasing to the eye, and you really don't notice any of these issues when you're mid-battle. The game's performance is unquestionably good. I had high FPS all of the time on my GTX 1080 Ti and 7-year-old i7-4770, and as in all of my reviews, you can see an FPS counter in the top left-hand corner of the screen. I did have a few minor stutters, but they were few and far between, and most likely related to the netcode and the server stability more than the game itself. Server stability was pretty woeful at launch, and whilst being much better now, it's still a little bit unstable in my humble opinion. Online waiting times are incredibly long, sometimes even timing out completely, and often I found the number of players is low, depending on which game mode you go into. As I played throughout the day, and again in the evening, I did find that this became less of an issue, which suggests to me that player numbers do vary quite a lot throughout the day, and setting my search to worldwide instead of just Europe, as I said earlier, did improve the number of players in online matches, and the number of server disconnects became less often. The game's audio is good. The only real gripe or suggestion that I could make is that horses approaching from behind should be much louder. I have actually experienced horses approaching at speed many times throughout my life, and I can assure you that the sound alone will be enough to make you immediately want to move out of their way. In Mordhau, I felt, despite being able to hear the horse approaching, it didn't really frighten me or intimidate me in the way that it ought to. And I also think that character voices should be a bit louder, but maybe you can adjust this in the audio settings. Other than that, the audio in the game is acceptable, and it's pretty authentic. I wouldn't say it's really good enough to evoke a deep sense of immersion, but thankfully the gameplay itself does help out in that way. I also enjoyed the in-game music. It's suitable, and I liked it. The tutorial in-game does a good job of getting you up to speed quickly. It explains well what you need to do, when and why. There is a little bit of thinking outside of the box required to achieve this, and completing the tutorial does not in any way prepare you for the onslaught that is going to be coming your way. I will need to return to the tutorial a few more times to hone my skills and really master the excellent combat system which Mordhau has provided. Completing the tutorial will also gain you your first 2,500 credits, which you can then use later to customize your own character, adding new armor and new weapons. Unfortunately, the tutorials do fall short of explaining each of the game modes. How and where to heal or where to replenish your arrows, for example, is not really explained, and indeed there is little hand-holding with the essential aspects of creating your own mercenary and then kitting them out appropriately. The whole thing is somewhat intuitive. You will be able to struggle your way through, but cast iron understanding is something that will take a little time, and a little more guidance from the game I think would benefit the vast majority of players here, because until you really do understand all of this, you will find that the vast majority of your engagements will end with your head being caved in. I am extremely glad to see full controller support for those who wish to use it, and in 2019 key binding for me is very much an expected feature, and it has been delivered. I do think that some additional options might be a good idea, a toggle button for running perhaps, and maybe even a free look button. Having experienced this with games like PUBG and Arma, I do find it so useful, and in Mordhau what often kills you is the opponent that you didn't see coming. The most important part of a game like Mordhau is the actual combat controls, and I must say that they are simple, yet realistic and effective. Some great one-on-one battles could easily be achieved here, and some seriously gratuitous, epic clashes can also be experienced, though as a noob, this was the exception rather than the rule. Character customization is a huge thing in Mordhau. You will want and need to use points that you've gained in order to create your own character, and with extensive armor and weaponry options available, a lot of customization is on offer. There are 9 predefined character types to choose from when you begin, and to get started these will do you just fine. I found that I gravitated rather towards the huntsman, which is effectively the archer, but then I also had a lot of fun using the knight and the veteran option too. Over time you will figure out what weapons work best for you and which armament is best to keep you both moving fast enough to be able to be effective, but be able to protect you enough from unexpected hits as well. The game is both realistic and fun. Hours simply melt away in Mordhau, and of the 3 game options available, I would have to say that Frontline is without any doubt my favourite. The game is so well balanced that a battle could last for a very long time, and within the confines of that battle, the advantage could significantly change hands quickly and often unexpectedly. To be so close to winning, then ultimately lose, is a rather strange sensation, but each win is hard fought and well earned in my experience, and congratulatory exchanges are handed around freely to all sides of a well fought battle. That being said, there are a number of people who do look to argue, blame and incite verbal aggression towards other players. I suspect these are mostly uneducated, often young and immature people, who quite rightly find themselves addressed and corrected by the other players in game. Now I may have missed this, and to be honest I didn't go looking for it, but I don't believe there is a way to vote ban any player, and as tensions increase, and team killing certainly is being an often unavoidable side effect of hack and slash games, things can get messy within the ranks pretty quickly. The good news is that this is all via text, as Mordhau does not currently support VoIP. Mordhau has most certainly achieved a high replayability score from me. While standing here writing this review, I just want to jump in and play. But I won't, because otherwise this review will never see the light of day. But I really want to. I would like to see more maps added. This seems to be the most likely and simple way to enhance the replayability of this game. I can think of a few new game modes to include as well. I would love to have some game where we have to defend a massive castle, requiring our opponents to storm the walls or break down the doors and then fight on the parapets. Something like Push from Battlefield. I would really like to see that, and I hope we get to see this added soon, because thinking about it, that really would be sensational. So, the most important bit of all, gameplay. And yeah, it's very good and a lot of fun. I laughed so hard many times. So there are 3 gameplay types. Horde, which is where you take on wave after wave of progressively stronger and larger numbers of AI opponents. You start with nothing, and by attacking the enemy you gain points, which you can then use to buy armor and weapons. The AI are very stupid. They're so stupid that they should just be called artificial, as many times I saw just a single player slowly hack and slash his way through long streams of slowly moving, very stupid AI. Honestly, I do think this needs to be changed. Maybe split up the number of AI opponents that are released within each round, so that you are only engaging in smaller but progressively tougher AI opponents at a time. As it is, I just find Horde to be the least interesting of all the gameplay options at present. Then there is Battle Royale. Now I'm very happy to see this in the game, but unfortunately player numbers were so low, it just became a very long arduous wait for a very short and limited gameplay experience. In a full 64 player server with well matched skilled players, then I think this could be awesome, but right now it's still not my favourite gameplay choice. Indeed, that honour goes to Frontline. Yes, this is where the real fun can be had, and is similar to Conquest in Battlefield. I would like to see something similar to Rush added to the game, with a castle to defend, as I mentioned. I really do think that would be epic. But for now, I am enjoying the Frontline experience, and based on the numbers in each server, I would assume that for the majority of players, the same could be said. When playing Frontline, you basically have two teams, one wears red and the other one wears blue. Team killing is definitely a thing, even if you're trying not to do it. And, as it was with Chivalry, the blue team have a distinct disadvantage. When your blue team is covered in blood, they also look red. And in some shadowy areas, it is true to say that some of the red team can briefly look blue too, but that's a mistake that happens far less often. So you will, almost certainly, at some point, at least once in your gameplay experience, kill one of your teammates thinking that he's on the red team. Even if you do know who is on which side, your wild swings can pass through your opponent and abruptly hit a teammate in the face anyway. Some people really do take offense to this, and they shouldn't. It just happens, especially with a new title like this. It would be nice, I think, if Frontline had a best of 3 option. Maybe custom servers can implement this, but I certainly didn't see it once, so I'm assuming it doesn't yet exist. The maps are well made in my humble opinion, and do seem to be balanced. Battles can ebb and flow in unexpected and sometimes rather dramatic fashions, with an all but victorious battle suddenly becoming a very close defeat. Fantastic stuff. The game does not seem to support VoIP at the moment, not sure if that's coming or not, so this does make communication rather difficult. What you end up with is 32 players just doing whatever they think is right, or just whatever they want, which often does not include taking the objective. Battles are going off in all directions and killer blows can literally come from anywhere. This is a little bit difficult to sort of swallow when you understand that the only way to heal within a frontline battle is if one of your teammates puts some health down. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% a fan of this. I think maybe the whole implementation could be slightly different. Maybe just adding VoIP would allow you to say, hey, I need some health over here. I don't know. But it is a little bit of a detraction from what is otherwise an extremely fun experience. The implementation of horses are a very nice touch. There are only 4 available at any time, which seems to balance very well, as the horsemen are extremely effective. The mechanics behind the horse riding is brilliant. I hope that Mount and Blade 2 will manage to achieve such a high level of realism as is achieved here in Mordhau. Taking down a horseman is a tricky thing, but with the truly excellent combat mechanics, all it takes is a well-timed duck, a twist, and a perfectly placed arrow. Yes! I did encounter some server stutters, perhaps hackers online, but I really can't say either way. And to be honest, it was pretty rare, and it did always seem to be just one player. And it didn't really detract from the fun that I was having overall. The situation is that you're going to die a lot anyway, and if he is hacking and he's killed me, it's just one more death within hundreds. In time, maybe this will become a problem, but for now, it's really not a concern. Whilst I am tempted to go into extreme details about the combat mechanics, I'm not going to do it yet. Partly because I have yet to master them, and also I think that that's a video that would be better suited or served in the form of a tutorial. So let's just say that I think it's very good, it works extremely well, and it does allow for some wonderful battles. So to sum this game up then, I think that Mordhau really has nailed the pricing at just over £20. They haven't been too greedy, and there are no microtransactions in the game, which is a massive plus for me. If they were to release map DLCs, and some of the custom servers already do seem to have some, then I would probably buy them too. Cosmetic DLCs would not likely capture my wallet, but I'm sure that it would for many. Let's just quickly give an overview here. The pros of this game are the combat system, absolutely brilliant. The graphics are very good, the performance is very good, and the level of customization is impressive. The price is right, and the level of enjoyment that I've got from this game already justify the 20 odd pounds that I spent on it. Cons, well, the online loading times and stability are questionable. Maybe this will improve over time, I'm sure it will, I hope it will, but it is something that's definitely worth noting. You will be waiting a long time, you might not find a lot of players in the game type that you want to play, and you could quite easily get dropped from a server unexpectedly. One thing I did notice that I haven't really mentioned already is that even when you pick a faster character, obviously the heavier your armor is, the slower your player moves, but the faster characters do not actually seem to be faster when they're running, not faster at all. I was pretty much caught and killed every single time I tried to run away with a faster character, even when fighting against heavier, slower characters. I definitely think this is something that needs to be looking at. It just doesn't make sense as it is, and I don't particularly like it. So what I'd like to see in the game, well, I've mentioned it a couple of times already, I'd love to see some sort of push gameplay added. I think that would be fantastic. We'd probably need custom maps just for that, but having more maps overall I think would also be a benefit to the game. They could improve the UI in some areas, maybe give a little bit more information for the new players, some sort of hand-holding support, some guidance of what they're supposed to be doing, where and how, but this is all stuff that could be added over time. And yeah, I think there could be one or two more button combination options added, like having a toggle for run, because yeah, it was starting to make my finger ache, to be quite honest with you, holding that down for large periods of the game. But overall, this is a very, very good game, and considering it's their first release, massive kudos to the development team. I think they've done a fantastic job. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better medieval hack and slash game, and I keep calling it a hack and slash game. It isn't really. There's a lot of technical skill here. When you're battling and you're fighting, you need to know the mechanics of the combat system, but also your brain will play a large part in your position, your movement, your footwork. There's an awful lot that goes into having a battle here. Chances are you'll be in the middle of a big battle and someone will just come up and club you around the back of the head anyway. But it's all a lot of fun, and I really massively recommend this game. So if you've enjoyed this review, if you found it helpful, if you think I've forgotten anything, tell me in the comments. Please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And if you know somebody who might be interested in seeing this, share it with them. It helps our channel survive. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves till next time. Goodbye.